Thank you for tuning in to Entertain the Geeky, your source for nerd news.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Jason back at you with more nerd news. So really big week this week. The real reason I think it was such a big week was that Marvel and Disney finally showed off a full theatrical trailer for Avengers Infinity War. And man, it is something else. I mean, finally getting to see some good footage of Thanos, some flashback stuff with, when he first kidnapped Gamora and made her the last of her species. We finally get to see the Black Order in action, if only very briefly, and really the only one that gets highlighted outside of a single shot of them is the Ebony Maw. And I covered this in my breakdown of the trailer, which you can check out over at entertainthegeeky.com. But really, we do see Doctor Strange being tortured. He looks quite in pain, and he's got it almost looks similar to the weapons that Caecilius and his followers were using. They kind of look like streams of glass. And they're, in one shot in the trailer, they're literally being stabbed into Strange's head. So one can say maybe it's a manifestation of a psychic attack. And then we do get a quick shot of the Ebony Maw, who's just terrifying and looks absolutely perfect and brilliant. And I cannot wait to see them in action on the big screen. But this was a particularly interesting thing in the Infinity comic, because the location of the Infinity Stones that were on Earth was known to Strange, and it's presumed that it is, presumably he knows where they are in the movie world as well. Excuse me. I mean, being a sorcerer, and having access to the kind of magic that he does, it is assumed that he is well aware of the Infinity Stones on Earth and where they are. And so in the comic, he was actually tortured for this information by the Ebony Maw, and then the Ebony Maw sent him back into the group of Avengers as kind of a sleeper agent that he could keep tabs on. So it'll be, we clearly know just from the fact that the Black Order is making its appearance. There's been rumor that Thane is going to make an appearance, which is one of Thanos' children, that they are taking their inspiration from Jonathan Hickman's Infinity comic. And if that's the case, we could see Doctor Strange kind of being turned a little bit and maybe being not an antagonist, but a sleeper inside of the Avengers that can ultimately be a card that Thanos can play later. Whether this turns out to be true or not, I don't want to say for sure, but the trailer definitely implies these kinds of things. We also get to see the Avengers reuniting in Wakanda. We get to see them kind of gearing up for the battle with the Outriders. We saw a little bit of that in the teaser. We definitely get a lot of footage of it here in the new theatrical trailer. What more can I say? I mean, the trailer is fantastic. This movie shattered the pre-sale record for tickets. Tickets went on sale last Friday when they debuted the trailer. And literally they broke the pre-sale ticket record in 6 hours. So clearly fans are hyped. I know I am. I cannot wait. April 27th. Cannot get here soon enough. Stay tuned to Entertain the Geeky, because coming up, myself and I'm going to have Joe with me. We're going to do kind of a Road to Infinity War series where we're going to look at all the phases and kind of, talk about what they've done to build this universe, what they've done to lead into Infinity War. So we'll get that going on over the next few weeks here. So keep your ears open for that. Still in movie news, Steven Spielberg has announced that in the spring of 2019, he's going to begin production on a 5th installment in the Indiana Jones franchise. Now, I have kind of mixed feelings about this. Honestly, I don't know. There might be some of you out there that enjoyed The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Me, personally, I really just thought it was a bad movie, and a bad attempt at kind of bringing a new generation the Indiana Jones story. Also, the little, alien thing at the end. I mean, I guess, I've heard people say that long before Indiana Jones did it, there was always theories that the ancient Egyptians and ancient civilization as a whole was influenced by alien culture. And that's a big conspiracy theory among people, that there's no way they could have built these things without some kind of outside force acting upon them. And that's fine, but for me, keep it out of my Indiana Jones movies. Really, just was kind of disappointed with how that whole movie went. So I'm very skeptical. There was talk for a while, rumors that this movie would be a reboot and would introduce a new audience to a younger Indiana Jones. Turns out that's not the case. Harrison Ford will reprise his role one last time here. But there's really been no new information about what the story will be. There's still a rumor that persists that it's going to be based somewhat on the adventure game / comic book from a while ago called The Fate of Atlantis. And if that's the case, I mean, that Atlantis could be an interesting story. It could fit well with the other things that we've seen Indiana Jones tackle, like the Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant. Atlantis, it seems like it fits well within Indiana Jones, but honestly, we thought Akato and some of the things that came out of the Crystal Skull seemed like they were going to fit well until they blasted us with aliens right there at the end. So who knows? I am going to keep my opinions on this to myself until we actually get to see some trailers or some footage, or get to hear some information about what this movie's what story this movie's gonna tell. But we'll keep you posted right here on Entertain the Geeky about this. Still in movie news, apparently the writing and the early pre-production has begun for Rian Johnson's new Star Wars trilogy. And if you're unfamiliar, Johnson, who directed The Last Jedi, did such an amazing job during production, and Lucasfilm just loved his input so much that before the movie was even out, they asked him and made an announcement that he will write and produce and possibly direct a new Star Wars trilogy. And apparently this will have no connection to any of the current stories. When we get done with Episode 9, we will come full circle. It will be the end of Rey's story, it will be the end of Ben's story, and it will be the end of Finn and Poe's story. So they're kind of going to keep that contained within its 3 movies and not let it bleed into the next trilogy. There's still a lot of speculation about what Johnson's trilogy will be, where he will take the Star Wars saga. Honestly, I'm of the opinion that changing and kind of starting fresh and creating new characters is a good way to go. I mean, that's one of the things that I think was so powerful about The Last Jedi is its message is clear. We loved Luke and Han and Chewie and Leia. These are great characters, but they've had their time. It's time to leave those things in the past and move forward. And honestly, I think from a business perspective, it's exactly what Disney needs to do to keep Star Wars relevant in the eyes of, the more modern movie-going audience. So what that story will be, how long it will take before we'll actually see them on the screen or get any information about it, is yet to be seen. But we do know that the pre-production process, the writing process, that kind of thing has begun. He's working with the people at Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, and others are working very closely with them to kind of try to find a direction to take Star Wars in after we finally conclude this new trilogy. So fingers crossed that he continues to do the kinds of things he did with The Last Jedi. Love it or hate it, The Last Jedi definitely stuck in fans' memories and will stick in their memories going forward. Personally, I loved it. I thought it was great, but I understand people's criticisms. We actually did a review where we talked about those criticisms and kind of tried to debunk the reasons why some people are upset. But there are legitimate criticisms that people have about the film. So who knows? Who knows where Rian Johnson will take it next? But I think unchained from the continuity that he's been chained to make The Last Jedi, we could really see something special from him. So we got some information on Quentin Tarantino's Star Trek movie. I know that sounds weird, right? That's a weird statement to hear, but Tarantino will direct a Star Trek movie that will be set in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek universe. There was speculation that with Tarantino being brought on board, that it would be a more adult take on the source material, and that it might even carry with it an R rating. But Simon Pegg, who is writing and producing and has been working with the Star Trek movies since J.J. Abrams rebooted the universe, seems to think that won't be the case. He definitely seems to think it's up in the air at this point, but he leans more toward the idea that it will still be within the PG-13 range, keeping the audience wide and allowing people to bring their children to go see Star Trek. Because, again, love it like Last Jedi, right? Love it or hate it, the new Star Trek movies have been successful. Star Trek Beyond didn't really bring in the kind of numbers or commercial success that I think they were hoping for, so there was questions about the future of the franchise, whether or not it was going to continue on, or just kind of quietly die. But apparently it will continue on, and I'm going to be honest, I'd be interested to see what Tarantino will do with this sci-fi property. We've never really seen him lean into that. He's done some horror and some things like that, and mostly like action movies. So it'll be interesting to see what he does with the Star Trek universe. I know that there have been complaints about these Star Trek movies putting a little too much emphasis on the action, and not enough emphasis on the science fiction aspect of it. So we'll see if Tarantino and Simon Pegg can find a balance for this new movie. But again, like Tarantino, interested to see what, every time he's got a new project coming down the pipeline, and I'm always, interested to see what's going on and what he's going to be bringing to us. So who knows? Fingers crossed. Jumping over into the world of comic news, Dark Horse announced this week that they will be doing Incredibles tie-in comics for the new Incredibles 2 movie that comes out, I think later this year. I'm not really sure on the date on that. Maybe we don't have an exact date yet. But Incredibles 2 is coming. We've seen a fantastic trailer. And honestly, the first Incredibles movie still stands out as the best Fantastic Four movie ever made. And I hold on a minute, right? Because I know that sounds goofy, but the Fantastic Four live-action films that we've gotten so far have been so bad, and it took Disney and Pixar with The Incredibles to show us this is how you make a Fantastic Four movie. You take the emphasis off of the kind of big, over-the-top action that, kind of is typical of your average superhero movie, and you put that emphasis on the family element. And that's why the comics endured for so long, right? This is a story about a family. Yes, they have these larger-than-life villains, and they have these great space adventures that they get into, but at the core of what it is, it's still just a story about a family. Reed and Sue are married. Johnny is Sue's brother. Ben is Reed's best friend. So they really come together, and all they have to rely on is each other, and their love and their respect for one another carries very well through into what The Incredibles became. It's impossible to say The Incredibles didn't take at least some of its inspiration from Fantastic Four. Now with the addition of, the second movie, we will get 5. We're supposed to incorporate Jack into this movie a lot more than he was. He's just kind of the baby comic relief character in the first movie. But I think he's supposed to get a larger role, and we're supposed to start to understand, what exactly his power set is, because it seems pretty random if you've watched the movie and if you've seen the trailer for the new one. So apparently the comics are supposed to take place during the movie and after its narrative, and they're really going to involve the kids. So they're putting the focus on the children of the Incredible family, and the books will be geared more towards children. But if you're an Incredibles fan and you're not a child, I would strongly say that you probably should want to, go pick these up and check them out. If only just for their tie-in material, right? How, what's going on behind the scenes, or what's going on before or after the film. There's been a lot of time since the first film, so it's still a good, it's a good thing to catch up and kind of get a feel for where they're taking the story from here. Over on the Marvel side of things, apparently all new Wolverine is going to end. And it is going to be replaced this July by X-23 #1. So, Laura is still unaware that Logan is back and that he is alive. In fact, a lot of people are still unaware that he is back and he is alive. But obviously that's going to change, and that will probably give rise to the reason she hangs up the moniker of Wolverine and goes back to her X-23 days. The comic is, like I said, it's going to release in July, being brought to you by the team of Mariko Tamaki and Juan Cabal. So interesting thing to look forward to. I mean, the original introduction of X-23 is fantastic. They gave her own series for a while to coincide with a relaunched Wolverine series that started with Wolverine Goes to Hell, where the soul of Wolverine is trapped in hell while a demon inhabits his body. Really, really excellent story, and if you've not read it, I urge you to go back, find those issues, find a trade, check it out. Some of the best Wolverine stuff I've ever read. But so presumably she will, drop the mantle of Wolverine, go back to her X-23 thing, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it will be a new, fresh start for Laura as a character, because that previous series just was not that good. It was a little disappointing, especially if you were a fan of the introduction of X-23 and a fan of Laura as a character. It definitely left something to be desired. Switching over to DC, Dan Abnett and Paul Pelletier are uniting for a Titans special. They're calling it Titans Special Number 1. And this is supposed to be in the aftermath of a few things. So the big thing is they did a storyline called Titans Apart, where they kind of tore the team apart. And I know that sounds, weirdly descriptive based on the title, but that's pretty much what happened. And then we started seeing solicitations for upcoming DC Comics, and the Titan story was not a part of it, which had some fans scratching their heads about the future of the series. But apparently they were just waiting for this moment, right? So in the aftermath of No Justice, which starts later this year, which is a Justice League thing that's supposed to restructure the Justice League a little bit, and Dark Knight's Metal, which finishes up this month, we are going to see Nightwing kind of bring the team back together and probably get a relaunched series out of it. But the Titan Special Number 1 should give us all of kind of the aftermath of these big events that have been going on, and what that means for Dick Grayson and Wally West and Donna Troy and these Titans characters. So hopefully we'll get a new series. The Titan series that's been going on had been really, really good, and I've really, really been digging it. So I was kind of sad to see that it might not be coming back, but I'm excited now that they are going to bring it back. So switching over to the video game side of things, people have started to get their hands on early copies of God of War, which releases April 20th, so next month. And the gameplay that we've started to see in some videos appears, just kind of very drastically different from what we've had before. It seems that Kratos' son, quote-unquote son, we don't really know the nature of their relationship yet. Is this his blood child? Was this the child of the woman he now is with or married to or whatever they might be? But his son Atreus is going to play a major role in the gameplay as a supporting character. And I know people kind of cringe when they hear the word supporting character. My thoughts immediately go back to the President's daughter Ashley in Resident Evil 4, who was just the most useless side character ever. But it seems like from the gameplay that Atreus' role will be more informative and more supportive, not necessarily someone that you need, but someone that is there. Because obviously Kratos is very used to the Greek world, Greece and Athens and these other places, and now he inhabits the Nordic lands, the lands of the Vikings, and he really doesn't know much about this. So it seems like, from the gameplay footage we've seen, Atreus will kind of help Kratos to understand how things work here, the lay of the land, the monsters. He'll be kind of a exposition dump, I guess. And there will be a little bit of time to play as Atreus if those old trailers are to be believed. But the gameplay definitely looks a lot slower, not as visceral, not as fast-paced, which may or may not be a good thing. I mean, I think the God of War series was definitely in trouble of becoming stale. And the last couple of games that they released didn't really do as well as I guess they had hoped, which kind of led to this whole kind of overhaul of the series. But I'm excited to see what happens. I will definitely be picking up God of War, and I will get a review up as soon as I can. Over in other news in the video game world, Soul Calibur 6 has announced its mystery special character, and it is Geralt from the Witcher series. When they showed us some footage of him in battle, and I gotta be honest, it looks fantastic. I mean, the Soul Calibur series has always been one of the most top-notch fighting series, right next to Tekken. And I don't even really put Mortal Kombat in that list, because Mortal Kombat, while it is a fighting game, it just kind of does its own thing. It doesn't really fit within the mold of some of the other fighting games like Tekken and Soul Calibur. But Soul Calibur has been fantastic, and Geralt looks great. And if you're a fan of The Witcher, that might be a little incentive to pick up the new Soul Calibur game. And Geralt is a big push behind the market. I mean, he's on the cover of the game box, which is very interesting. The kind of the bonus character has never really had that much spotlight from a fighting game. They've always just kind of been like, oh, here's an extra thing we threw in. But it seems like I guess the success of Witcher as a series has definitely, shown them that they need to put this guy front and center. So they're using him a lot in their marketing campaign, and the gameplay footage looks fantastic. So a couple last year or the year before, I'm not really sure exactly when, I think it was last year, Atari announced that they were going to get back into the console market, which, at the time, I guess seemed like a really weird thing. They've been developing games for, as a third-party developer for current consoles for a long time now, and I just really didn't feel like their company needed to take that chance again. But they're going to do it. The Atari box is what it was initially called. An official name has been given. The Atari VCS be the first console that the company has released in 20 years. So it's been a long time since Atari's been in the console market. But they're really coming strong. I mean, they want this thing to be your entertainment center, right? So just like your PlayStation and your Xbox, you'll be able to stream your Netflix and your Hulu. You'll be able to check your Facebook and your internet and things like that. They really are trying to make something that people are going to want to buy. Now, how that will stack up in a market that has pretty much been dominated by Sony and Microsoft is yet to be seen. I really think it's a big chance for their company, because if they put a lot of push behind this and it doesn't work out for them, where does that leave them? Are they still going to be able to make games? Is their company still going to be doing well if this flops? We'll see, though. Atari VCS, I'm sure we'll get some more information when E3 comes along, and I'll make sure to get all the coverage up for E3 as well. We'll probably do a whole E3 special. Over in the TV world, just to kind of wrap things up here real quick, Legends of Tomorrow Season 4 has yet to be ordered, but they have announced that if it goes forward, Constantine, played just expertly by Matt Ryan, will be a series regular. He's popped up in an Arrow episode. He was in a Legends of Tomorrow arc. I think he's been in a Legends of Tomorrow arc this season. I'm not caught up on the series, but I'm pretty sure he popped up this season again. And he's going to be doing the voice for the animated Constantine cartoon that the CW Seed is bringing to its DC universe. And he did the voice for Constantine in the recent release of Justice League Dark, the animated movie. So people, of the short-lived Constantine series that NBC put forth, only ran for one season. Among the many things that it got wrong, it did Constantine very well. Matt Ryan kills it as Constantine, and clearly he has the fan support. And I really hope Legends of Tomorrow gets renewed, just so we can get Matt Ryan back on screen playing Constantine full-time, because I feel like he's great. Switching over to the Marvel side of things, Cloak and Dagger on Freeform has dropped a new poster. They're really pushing the marketing campaign of this one. And in all reality, we saw a little teaser trailer months and months and months ago, which really didn't give us a lot of information. I think it was just kind of trying to gauge interest and kind of showing you a baseline for what the show would be. But supposedly this week we are going to get a new trailer. We'll be sure to get that posted to entertainthegeeky.com. Don't really know what the show's going to be, hoping that the trailer will clear things up a little bit. But I definitely have been a big fan of Cloak and Dagger in the comic world. an interesting little pair. They kind of go well together. Their story is more of kind of I guess like a teen drama would be the best way to describe it. So I feel like that's the direction Freeform is taking it. And you may kind of cringe at the sound of that, but it's, you'd use the right story for the right source material. And we've seen Runaways with great success on Hulu, telling a teenage drama story about young kids with superpowers. So clearly the formula is working. The Gifted on Fox has been another example of these young mutant characters that we're following. So, it's the market audience, right? I mean, kids like to see that there are heroes that are their age, that are heroes that deal with the same kind of problems as them. Honestly, it's why I got into comics so long ago back in the day, because if you can find something to relate to, something to latch on to, then it opens up a whole new world to you. And I think the comic world really has caught fire with the success of these movies and these TV shows. So I'm all for any kind of attempt that they make, as long as it's, something that intrigues people and gets people to go, you know what, I kind of want to check out these characters. I kind of want to read this comic and find out what's going on. And this is a little bit of a sad note to end on here, but the future of Rick and Morty is kind of in question right now. It's a little up in the air. Dan Harmon was speaking in an interview and said that Adult Swim has yet to order a 4th season of the show, and that he would love to sit down and get to work. But he really doesn't want to put a lot of effort and get everything going if they're not going to want another season. Now, it seems ridiculous that Adult Swim would not order a 4th season of Rick and Morty, so I'm sure that they will. But because they've kind of been lagging behind, we might not see new Rick and Morty until 2019. Which, yeah, kind of a bummer, but I feel like people are unfairly putting that hatred on Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland, and they are not the guys you should be complaining at. If anything, you should be complaining at Adult Swim for dropping the ball, for not getting this going and getting these shows out sooner to us. Because Rick and Morty is huge for them. I mean, it is one of the most watched cartoons that they've released in a long, long time. So why they haven't renewed it is yet to be seen. When they will renew it, we don't know. They have made no official word, but I gotta say, I really liked Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland, and man, I really wish everybody would just leave them alone. You wanna put your anger in the right place. Put it on Adult Swim. Get them to make a move before you start questioning Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland. It'd be one thing if they were already working on the 4th season, but they are not. Dan Harmon has said he has made no moves on the 4th season because he's waiting to hear from Adult Swim about whether or not they want to continue doing it. So, that is going to bring us to the end. Thank you all for sitting and listening to me kind of just ramble on about all the cool, nerdy stuff that's going on this week. If you're digging what we're putting down, do me a favor, head on over to entertainthegeeky.com. We've got all the things there, the blog, the nerd news, the shows, Entertain the Geeky Nerd News. We've even got Matt and Jeff's Board Game Bros. They're really cool guys. Give their show a listen as well. If Facebook is more your speed, if that's where you find us, we're on Facebook at facebook.com/entertainmentgeeky. We are on Twitter at entertaingeeky. And if you want to talk and you want to let me know what you think of the show or just kind of suggest things that you'd like to hear more of or like to hear less of in the future, shoot me an email at etgnerdnews@gmail.com. That's going to bring us to the end. Thanks again, guys. Until next time, stay geeky.